Springfield Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting is called to order. Please stand and we'll have the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone to our September 15th meeting, our regular meeting for September. 1.2, the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen held on August 18th, 2020. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard. Second by Alderman Gregg.
Mayor,
Sir.
I'd like to address this issue. Need to make an amendment. So,
What would be your amendment
I'm trying
to the minutes?
okay. On the minutes, 3.3, Alderman Hubbard moved to discuss appointments to the Springfield, Robertson County Joint Airport Board. The motion was seconded by Alderman Sneed. It reads, Alderman Sneed moved to recall the city's dual appointee, Hulk Ruth. City Attorney Christy Barty advised the motion was not proper as the board does not have the ability to recall an appointee, and no action was taken. Those minutes are incomplete as far as, and I'd like to address the fact that Ms. Barty told us that we have no ability to recall an appointee. If there were issues with an appointee, which that's the reason I had it on the agenda to recall.
Okay, state your amendment.
Ms. Barty, city attorney, was incorrect in telling us we have no ability to recall an appointee. She cited case law.
Okay, I've asked for your amendment. We have to put this into writing. You want to make an amendment?
The amendment would be to refute Ms. Barty's assumption and opinion that it was not
Okay.
this board's ability to recall.
I believe that's what she said. I'm going to call on our attorney, Mr. Dan Nolan.
He wasn't here to hear that. How would he have ability to know what we talked about at that meeting?
Well, I believe that's what she said in the meeting, is that,
You have to have a second to the amendment.
yes. We need to go ahead and have a second. Mr. Nolan?
Yes, you would.
Okay. All right.
We don't have to second an amendment to the minutes. I'm making the motion to amend the minutes. I don't believe that it requires a second to do that.
Well, you have a second.
You got one.
We've got a
Okay.
second. You have a motion to amend.
Okay. Move to amend the minutes to refute Ms. Barty's assumption that this board has no ability to recall a non-paid, non-elected, volunteer board member.
Okay, so you're disputing 3.3. Is there a second?
There's a second.
Okay, there's a second by Alderman Gregg. Ready for discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
How did my name come? Did you mention my name?
It's in the minutes.
It's in the minutes.
I just read what's on the minutes. I'm reading the minutes. And
My motion was to put it on the floor. It
Right.
wasn't that I was going along with it. Okay?
Right.
So I don't want to make a,
Okay,
There was no case law to back this up in all of my research, and I have documents from MTAS that addresses this issue. Looked at the state law. It says the city attorney was just incorrect about that.
okay, other discussion?
You're just asking for that to be removed from the minutes?
I'm asking that the minutes, as they read, says that this board does not have the ability to recall an appointee. We can recall an appointee if there's an issue and we need to do so. We are not stuck with a volunteer, non-paid appointee on the board for their full term. If there's issues, and this individual was involved in a lawsuit and is.
I
Go
guess I
ahead.
would ask the question, I believe that's what Ms. Barty said, so that was part,
My understanding of, and I may have misunderstood what was said, but my understanding was that we did not have the sole authority to remove him because it was a joint appointment with the county. But I may have misunderstood what was said.
This is what the minutes say. I'm amending what is in our minutes. I don't refute what all was said. We're approving what it says right here, and we do have the ability to recall an appointee.
Alderman Trotter?
Let's recall if we have an issue with them. If no one has an issue with them, if we don't have an issue with them, why would we recall it?
Well, these are our minutes, so we need to probably go back and look at that. We have it on video.
Mr. Trotter's asking a different question. I'm addressing what it says in our minutes, that Ms. Barty, as it is written, says we do not have the ability to recall an appointee.
Okay?
We can recall an appointee.
You're looking at that standpoint, no certain individual, just an appointee.
I don't know how more clear to make it. I mean, we do have the ability to recall people on boards. There's nothing in state law. She cited no state law to back up what she said. I asked her to. She did give me state law about the resignation of one of the board members, but that was for an elected sheriff, not a non-paid committee member. And so the case law that she cited for that was not accurate.
Okay.
And what MTAS says, and on recalling, what MTAS says on recalling committee members is this board's decision.
Okay. Alderman Gregg and then Ms. Holt.
Well, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know the answer to that. I second it so we could have a discussion about it.
Our minutes should reflect what was said in this meeting, is my understanding. Ms. Holt?
I went back and I listened to it again, and I think Kim had listened to it a second time. And the minutes we just cover the actions. We don't get into the discussion and the different sides and everything. So I checked it, and that is exactly what the city attorney said. And so it states in the minutes that she said that. It didn't say everybody agreed. It didn't say anything except for she stated that. So that's why it's written that way, and no action was taken. So that's the concise. Now, the answer, what you're talking about is what you have included on the agenda tonight under 3.3. So I think that was your intent, wasn't it, to discuss that at 3.3?
I think everybody's making this more complicated than it really needs to be. This is what we're approving, what it says right here. It says right here, we don't have the ability to recall an appointee. As a matter of record, I'm not going to vote for this and set precedents that says we don't have the ability to recall an appointee if there's issues, which I think that we need to move on because of the issues that have the history that's gone on down there, the total disrespect of this individual towards me when I've tried to ask him to be involved with the airport, and with other members of the airport,
We're talking about the minutes.
And you're asking me, okay.
Any other discussion?
I don't necessarily have a problem with what Alderman Snead is saying, but I would think when we're asked to approve the minutes, that we are actually approving what was said during that meeting, not so much as what the content of or the explanation of what is said. I have no problem with what he's saying, but I'm not sure this is the spot to address it.
No.
If there's something that's incorrect, and I'm trying to correct that.
Okay,
The minutes say that we don't have the ability.
All right.
That's not true.
Let me-
I don't want to prove, I don't want to prove minutes that are not true.
Just for clarification, are you wanting to amend these minutes to state that we do have the authority? Is that what you're wanting it to say? Are you wanting it removed? Or are you wanting, just so we know what?
What did I say, Ms. Breckles? I made a motion.
To rebuke Ms. Vartey's decision that the board does not have the ability to recall an appointee to the airport board.
okay. Anyone else like that read? Everybody hear it? Okay, Alderman Hubbard.
One thing, too. Page 3 said Alderman Hubbard moved, I moved to put it on the floor.
Move to discuss.
You commented on that, said that I could move to put it on the floor, didn't vote for it, okay? But all I did was move to put it on the floor.
Okay.
And there was nothing illegal about that.
Other discussion.
Ms. Bart, we had a motion.
Mr.
on the-
Sneed.
We had a motion on the floor, and it was seconded. Ms. Barty, in her position, has regularly tried to use that position as a veto power over this board. There was a motion on the floor, there was a second, and she subverted this board in making a roll call vote for us to have on record whether we wanted to do this or not. She circumvented what I was trying to do, which was recall this member, by saying we didn't have the power to do so, and that was incorrect. She does not have veto power over what this board does. That's exactly what happened.
Okay, other discussion before we vote on the amendment. Any other discussion? We're ready to vote on the amendment. Do you understand the amendment?
Yes, yes vote. Is Mr. Sneed, support Mr. Sneed?
Yes. To change the minutes. Any other questions before we vote? Ready for a vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion fails 3-4.
Okay. Back to the main motion about the minutes. We need to vote on the minutes. Any other discussion? Ready for a vote? Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you. 2.1, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-15 on a third and final reading. An ordinance rezoning 9 parcels located in the 9th Civil District on 17th Avenue East from MH Mobile Home District to MRO Multiple Residential and Office District. Do we have a motion to discuss? And a second. Motion made by Alderman Gregg, a second by Alderman Trotter. This is our third and final reading. Any discussion?
I'm pleased with it, since it's in my ward.
Okay. Any other discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
2.2, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-16 on a third and final reading. An ordinance rezoning 6 parcels located in the 9th Civil District on Baldwin Lane from R20 Low Density Residential District to R7 High Density Residential District. We need a motion and a second to discuss. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second by Alderman Gregg. Discussion, questions?
I understand that Mr. Moore and Mr. Francis come to an agreement on this,
Yes.
so we'll be voting for it now.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Keep building.
Keep building. No discussion, we're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.3, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-17 on a third and final reading. An ordinance abandoning the right-of-way at the intersection of Baldwin Lane and Harp Lane. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion made by Alderman Trotter, a second made by Alderman Hubbard.
Thank you, sir.
Discussion. Any questions? No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.4, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 20-18 on a third and final reading. A ordinance amending the fiscal year 2021's annual budget for the city of Springfield by amending certain general fund and utility fund operating budgets. We have a motion by Vice Mayor Harris and a second by Alderman Trotter. Discussion.
Correction, second by Hubbard.
Second by Alderman Hubbard.
Yes, ma'am.
It's up there.
It's okay.
You said
You
Trotter.
said try.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me start over.
Yeah, take a deep breath.
The motion was made by Vice Mayor Harris and a second by Alderman Hubbard. Now that I have that correct for the records, any discussion? We're ready for a vote. I was just seeing if you're awake.
Got to stay sharp.
Gotta keep you on your toes. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.5, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 20-29, a resolution declaring certain real property surplus and authorizing the disposal of such properties. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard and a second by Alderman Gregg. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, on these properties on the 9th Avenue and also, we're just going to put them up as surplus, is what you're asking to do? Because those are not necessarily properties that are lacking for tax reason. It's just, is it properties we own that we don't need?
Yes, sir. These are properties, and in the memo, kind of outlined the reasoning for it. And the 9th Avenue property requires a lot of work. And Mr. Keys and as our tenant in the city, we worked towards some repairs in the past. But with us, based on the strategic planning and the strategic plan that we came up with, that you all decided on this past year, those properties no longer fit in the city's long-term plan, so we can avoid spending $50,000 to $75,000 to put a roof on that building, then we can turn loose of that one and then dispose of the others as well.
What you're proposing, instead of just listing these properties for sale, that we just sell them through the surplus method?
That's up to you all. I don't think we had a particular proposal on that as far as putting them, you're talking about our current process that we use for the tax sale.
Right. Is that how you're saying to sell these properties?
By default, I think that's what we would do. That's the way we've done other non-tax sale properties, unless you all had a different method, but that's up to the board how we dispose.
But these are not properties, though, that are out there for non-tax,
Right.
or not out there because taxes have not been paid.
Correct.
These are properties the city owns
That's right.
already, outright.
That's right.
But you feel it's still the best way to do it through the surplus method?
Seeing what and Ms. Holt can
Well,
correct me.
The only thing I guess we could put a minimum bid on them because they are a little different, since we own them not through default. So, I see what you're saying, that we have.
I would think it would be pertinent to this board to at least not accept anything below what the tax appraisal would be on those properties, but if we sell it under this surplus method, then they've got it out there for so many days to bid, and then if nobody raises the bid, then it's sold.
Ms. Barty,
Good point.
when we started this surplus property, I voted no on some of the earlier low bid properties, thinking that there was collusion involved, but they just seemed odd. Ms. Barty told this board that with this bid process, it's one of our, like the first, second, or third meeting we had this, when we were doing what state required us to do to get rid of these properties and get them back on tax map. She told this board that we could not refuse approving these sales if it's been advertised and properly bid on and advertised again.
But if we vote yes on this tonight, then they're going to be sold under the surplus method.
Yes, and I just noticed that language in the resolution. So the resolution would need to be amended if the board didn't want to dispose of them that way. Or if, like Ms. Holt said, if you wanted to attach a minimum of the tax appraisal, I think that would be, I don't see that being out of bounds. We can dispose of them the same way, but we can attach conditions to these where we may not be allowed to attach conditions on the tax sale property.
In my opinion, I have no problem getting rid of the pieces of property that we don't need, but I don't know that we need to go about it on the surplus method. But there, we can amend it, but I guess I would like to know what the other board members feel, what your feeling is on this.
We could also auction these properties. We've done that before, or just advertise it for sale.
I personally
just-
think they'll bring more money the way we're talking about, the way Alderman Harris is talking about doing it.
I mean, just these
Not-
other
not
properties
going
that
through
we've
the
done
surplus.
have done because we've taken the properties back because the taxes have not been paid.
I think we
And
personally,
that's not the case with these properties.
I think we personally probably need to take those out, start over.
I mean, that's
Those
the only,
properties.
all three of these are ours.
Yeah.
Yes, all three of these are ours. The board would still need to surplus them, but we wouldn't have to dispose of them in the same manner. We'd have to
Right.
declare them surplus, but we wouldn't have to dispose of them in the same way we do the tax sale
So
property.
if we declare them yes tonight in surplus, doesn't mean we have to sell it under surplus. Is that what you're asking us to do tonight, make it surplus?
Declare them surplus.
But it doesn't, that's not discussing how it's going to be sold at this time.
The resolution states that they'll be disposed of in the same manner if you look at.
So there would need to be an amendment if we're
Yes.
voting yes.
Section 1 of the resolution says that the city manager is authorized to dispose of such property in the same manner as properties acquired via delinquent tax sale. So that would have to be amended if the board didn't want to go that route.
We
Mr.
don't.
Harris, are you finished? Mr. Hubbard's
Yeah,
next.
so-
I want to clear something up. We were not coerced into selling all those excess properties like we sold them. Those things have been a burden to us, and we wanted to get rid of them, understand me? And no one coerced us, so it was a misstatement there, okay?
Okay, Mr.
The
Sneed.
lawyer didn't coerce us.
I don't think.
We did it on our own.
State law, after passing state law passed something years ago that allowed municipal governments some leeway in the condemnation of properties.
True.
After about 10 or 12 years, we had a lot of things on the books, and we weren't getting rid of them. And state recognized that, came up with a new law, and we voted on that. Like it was addressed to us, that we had to come up with a way of getting rid of all these things that were on our books, because there were people coming to this board, not very many, but there was a few who saw corner lots and different things, and they were cherry picking and making offers, and we voted on it and sold it that way. But not too much later, then we had to comply with the state and come up with a policy, and that's what we have now is the surplus property. And then I made the amendment to do the 10% thing. That wasn't originally in the original amendment. I made the amendment where if it was bid on, you had to do the 10% for another month. That was not originally in there.
But the choice of word occurred, conclusions and all this kind of stuff. You see,
Okay.
we wouldn't show in favoritism to anyone. We wouldn't.
Ms. Hubbard, I've
See,
been-
but you
Okay,
made that
gentlemen.
statement, but it is not. It's unfair for you to indict us on that. Okay.
I didn't indict this
When you
board.
said it,
Okay.
you were in conclusion, that means
We're not gonna have a-
guilty.
Mr. Hubbard, I have been to a lot of
Gentlemen.
auctions, and you let him speak. You're gabbling me down, but you let him speak.
I'm gabbling both of you. We need manners.
Question.
And if you are finished, I will move on to but it's your turn.
Mr. Hubbard said
The choice of words.
that he thinks that I said this board was somehow involved with some collusion. That is not what I said or implied, but I have been to auctions where people have nudged each other and say, hey, don't bid on this lot, or don't bid on that lot, and I'll let you have this one. That's collusion. And I have seen that,
Okay?
and I've experienced it. And when we first started the surplus policy and bids were coming in pretty low, I wanted to refuse them. But Ms. Barty told us if it had gone through the process, You could not. Are we clear? Oh,
Okay, I'm going to move on. Let everyone else speak.
I have a
Mr.
question.
Harris?
If I wanted to move to postpone this at least one meeting, would that be through an amendment, or do I just make that motion? Do I have to amend this?
That would be an attorney question.
If I wanted to make the motion to postpone this item for 1 month, do I have to do that through an amendment, or just make the motion?
You just make the motion. I think that would be.
I move that we postpone this vote for at least 1 month until staff can come back and advise us the best way to sell these properties other than the surplus method.
Okay.
On the next 3 items.
On 2.5 is what we're on, yes.
Vice Mayor Harris has made the motion to move this to next month.
With the understanding that staff will give us some advice on how they think the best way is to, other than surplus. I just don't think surplus is the way to do these pieces of property.
I think we all agree on that.
I'm a little lost.
He's made a motion,
Has that been seconded?
and she's typing it in first. There's a motion on the floor to move this to the next meeting.
Get your motion, but
Get the motion.
And for the staff to come back with a better method of disposing of the property. Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay. A motion and a second has been made. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Please clarify, because I'm a little lost with all the discussion. Why are we looking at these properties different than all the other properties?
Because they are not taxed. We own these properties.
They're in our
And we
name.
don't have the properties because people did not pay taxes on them.
Are we going to do this for office equipment that is not tax sales, that stuff that we own, vehicles? Or are we just going to do it on real estate?
I would assume we can do it on anything the board chooses to do it on. I'm just making my motion on these 3 pieces of property, on
Right.
this 2.5.
Any other discussion about the motion that's been made?
Can I say it clearly?
Yes.
What the vice mayor said is within our prerogative to do this. Okay? That's all I want to say.
But not recall board members? Okay.
Okay.
Let's stay with what we're on.
Any other discussion? Ready for a vote?
This is on the,
Motion you made. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.7.
30 days, right, next month.
Next month, yes. 2.7, discuss and possible take action on resolution.
Hold on,
What?
we gotta do 2.6 first.
2.6. Oh, well, I moved right on down. I marked it out and moved right on. Just trying to see if y'all are awake. I tested them and I'm testing y'all. 2.6, discuss and possible take action on resolution 20-31. A resolution declaring certain properties surplus and authorizing the disposal of such properties.
Wouldn't it?
Do we have a motion to discuss? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard and a second by Alderman Trotter. Questions?
Wouldn't this fall under the same as 2.5? Because we'll move it to next week, next month. Same thing.
No land,
it's not.
There's no
Oh,
lane.
it's
no
not land.
land involved.
I mean, you can, but it's
It's
not
real
land.
property.
It's just our normal
Our
normal surplus.
Surplus stuff.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Okay. Any other questions? No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
2.7, discuss and possible take action on resolution 20-32. A resolution renaming a section of a street that was formerly part of the industrial drive. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard to discuss, and do we have a second? Second made by Alderman Gregg. Discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir, Mr. Sneed.
this section, its own, Electrolux is the largest employer in the county, and they don't have their name on their street. I'd like to give that company the ability to have the street that they're on named after them. There's no one else on this street that it would affect except them. But of course, their address now is Industrial Drive. They could leave it that way because that's,
They still face Industrial Drive.
I think it would still hit their mailbox. But I think if we were to name that section something to effect of the name of their company, maybe they might want to choose to move their mailbox around the corner. I don't know, but I think we should, I think that would be something we could consider doing, with being the fact they employ so many people and they're valued here.
Very valued. Other discussion?
You're talking only that front portion, not dealing with the Bill Jones portion.
Right.
Well, from the map that we're looking at, it goes from that 90-degree curve as you start to go down the hill by their fence out to the stop sign. There's no residents on Cardin Circle that face this. There's really no one that have an address on this street. So if we named it Electrolux Drive, then you know, it's actually in front of Holly Building. What difference does it make?
Does it continue on around the side and come out to Bill Jones? Is that all Reed?
Well, I mean, you would go from Industrial Drive
It used to be.
and cut onto the new road that goes around Holly, and then you would have Electrolux Drive in front, what we're considering now renaming. And then once you got in the curve, it would pick up Reed Road.
There's no houses.
No, not on Cardin Circle there, no.
So are you amending the motion?
I just throw it out there. I mean, that's it's up for discussion right now. Does anybody else have anything to say about that before I make an amendment?
Okay. I will call on Mr. Hubbard.
Okay, the clarification, get it clear. Okay, Industrial Drive will be the new portion and will come all the way around in front of the dog food plant, correct?
Well, that street's going to be closed off.
It'll be closed off?
But right now, Electrolux address is Industrial Drive because it come around to the dog food plant, but where that's closed off, that's going to be like their area where they can cross. If that's not really going to be, we're going to probably release that street as a city street unless we want to keep paving it, but I think they want to go across it.
Okay, so what you're saying from the beginning of where the new road is coming in, all the way to the stop sign, make it Electrolux Boulevard, is that what you're talking about?
Or drive, Electrolux Drive, I don't think it would be a boulevard, a short, a little street like that. I wouldn't call it boulevard, but I'd call it Electrolux Drive.
Okay.
It's actually in front of the Holly Building. It would give them
It's a short.
an opportunity. Their mailbox is right out by the corner there.
Okay, I'm gonna move this discussion over to Clayton. And
Do you want to stop in front of at the end of the Electrolux?
Right, it doesn't affect anyone's address, except for them if they choose to.
I think we need to make sure there's no other buildings that it's gonna affect.
Now, on the stretch of road that we're talking about, there are no residential and there are no other entrances to that property at this time. The area that we're questioning about, no, there wouldn't be any other access on that.
Okay. Any questions while he has the mic in front of him?
Staff have an opinion?
Move to amend the street name to Electrolux Drive.
Okay. Mr. Sneed has made an amendment.
Can you hit your button, please?
Hit your button, please. To
I
amend?
did, it didn't do anything a while ago.
It's an amendment.
Okay.
Amendment.
Since I'm the Alderman, I'll second it.
Give her a second to type it in. Okay. We have a motion to amend the road to Electrolux Drive. Do we have a second? Did we get a second? Mr. Hubbard?
Question.
Okay, and we're ready for your question.
I don't necessarily have a problem with doing this. I would be interested to know if staff has an opinion.
Okay?
I think
Mr.
Mr.
Martin.
Martin can address it, but I think generally the intent was to continue Reed Road so that you don't have all these different street names. That's why Reed Road was selected, just so that it would continue up to the intersection with Industrial Drive like it was before. And of course, that section between the Holly Building and Electrolux has been closed off, so that's not a road. And the Holly Building is actually owned by a company besides Electrolux, but they are renting it
But this Reed Road continues beside Electrolux and comes out over onto.
on Industrial Drive, on Bill Jones. Right.
Their houses, are we renaming that part?
No, this
No,
wasn't included
no,
in
he
this.
wanted the section.
Yeah,
Well,
so
just
we,
that one
Right.
section.
just that one section.
Okay, Mr. Martin. And then I'll go to Mr. Trotter.
I think that was the question we had, we were looking at, was the motion to rename all of Reed
No,
Electrolux Drive? Okay,
just what we're talking about here to rename it. What's in front of the Holly Building?
okay. That section of street that was formerly industrial that intersected.
Right, it affects no one. No one has an address there now to change. If Electrolux wants to start using that,
But it'll be
That's
Reed
what-
Road, then Electrolux Drive, and back to industrial.
We were just getting clarification on the motion, so.
Okay. Mr. Trotter, you're next.
I mean, I think it's a great idea, but I just wonder, need to contact Electrolux. They may want to leave Industrial Drive, you know, for not changing from mail purpose or truck purposes or whatever. I think, you know, we should know if they're on board with it. They don't have a problem with it.
Mr. Martin.
Well, we've been told that the road name does have to change because the way industrial is routed around now, there would be two industrial drives right there. So that's why the original proposal was to bring Reed. Now, whatever the board wants to rename that section, the emergency 911 addressing has asked that it be renamed because it does, the Holly Building's address is on that section of road. It's the only location that's affected. But that section of road does affect the Holly Building, so if there was an emergency call there, it would eliminate confusion. They're gonna have to struggle with numbering that with the new industrial drive reroute. So,
So would it be Electrolux from there all the way back down to Memorial?
No,
No,
no, he only asked for that small section. Any other discussion on the amendment?
I'm not too good with yardage, but what we talking about, 1,000?
It's what's here in the,
500, 700 feet maybe.
About 700 feet, nothing.
no. Any other discussion? Ready for a vote on the amendment? Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, back to the main motion as amended. Any discussion? No discussion, we're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.1, discuss and possible take action on the adjustments of the retail electric rates of the Springfield Electric Department due to the wholesale fuel cost adjustments by the Tennessee Valley Authority. We need a motion to discuss in a second. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second by Vice Mayor Harris. Mr. Nicky Benson.
We're 3.9% over the last.
Good news.
See, gas top left this month.
We'll expect that again, Mr. Pinson, next month. Any discussion? We're ready for a vote. We need to vote quick. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.2, discuss and possible take action on the adjustments of the monthly gas rates of the Springfield Gas Department. Do we have a motion? Motion made by Alderman Trotter, a second by Alderman Hubbard. Mr. Riddle,
Purchase gas adjustments up 14.47%.
you went the wrong direction.
Well, here's the saving grace, it's still cheaper than it was a year ago, and the electric can't say that.
We are in a battle. Thank you. Any discussion? Oh, okay. Okay. Any discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess and we'll be right back. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Just a few isolated incidents of two murders, other than that the crime rate is way.
Ready? So I can start? Our meeting is back in order.
Oh, you did that?
Gentlemen, our meeting's back in order. 3.3, discuss and possible take action on the request by Alderman Sneed to make appointments to the Springfield-Robertson County Joint Airport Board. Do we have a motion and a second to discuss? Do we have a motion and a second to discuss? Do we have a motion on the floor to discuss the agenda item?
Move to look at this issue from the resignation of Mr. Peterson.
Do we have a second?
Have a motion, do we?
Need a second, I guess.
We need,
I made the motion to move it, I guess we need a second.
Mr. Sneed has made a
Oh.
motion.
Oh, I see. Push this thing.
Do we have a second?
We'll discuss it.
Alderman Gregg has second. Okay? Mr. Sneed?
Yes, I don't remember the, exactly how I told Ms. Holt to put this on the agenda, but I'm just trying to clarify that there was in July, one of the airport board members, Mr. Peterson, made his resignation orally and maybe written, I'm not sure, but he made that resignation to the airport board. He did not make it to this board, nor has any other previous airport member made their resignation to this board, orally or written. It was made to that authority. It was read into the minutes at their September meeting. When you make your resignation and it's read into the minutes, it's fine. You can't, after the fact, after that point, dislike who your replacement is and say, I'm recanting my resignation. MTAS has a letter right here addressing this exact issue. It's dated, let's see, let me find it. It was from October 4, 2017. And the question that was asked MTAS, does the city have to accept the resignation of an alderman before it is effective? So this is getting into whether something's written or oral. And it goes on to say, with respect to a member of a municipal governing body, and the airport board is a subordinate to this governing body and is classified as an authority, can resign by officially submitting a written resignation or by orally declaring his or her resignation. Mr. Peterson did that. A member of a municipal governing body can also simply abandon his or her office. Obviously, the resignation, if oral, is better than giving in the presence of governing body, so it can be heard by the entire body and can be recorded into the minutes of that body. Both of those were done at the airport board, which is by state law an authority.
Okay, so you're questioning what the airport...
I'm not finished.
Okay,
If a written or oral resignation is submitted to the board, Mayor Alderman, which is what this is about, but it's still a governing body or authority, the board can accept it. Doesn't say we have to. It says it can, and appoint a person to fill the vacancy. That is what Ms. Bartiz said when she wrote that case law, which I just read, is why we could not say that Mr. Peterson had resigned, but in fact, the law says that you have. He did to that board. It was read into the minutes. He can't recall it back because, for whatever reason, and it's up to this board to fill that vacancy. It's not his to take back. He resigned, read into the minutes. It's ours to fill back. I'm just trying to keep it even. You can't be making the rules up as you go. And that's what some people and some boards try to do. I'm basing my issue with what happened last month on law. It's not a personal opinion. I'm just telling you what the law says. We were told by the city attorney we couldn't take that resignation because he had to come here and make that resignation, or we had to vote on it. And that's not what that says.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gregg. Hold on, Mr. Schreier.
We never got a resignation.
That's what I'm
to the board,
saying.
did we?
Ms. Holt?
What happened is when Mr. Peterson wrote the chairman of the airport board, and he copied me, he said he wanted to retire from his position on the airport board upon finding a replacement for his position. It was on the July agenda, and the airport board had made a recommendation of another person to take that position. It was on the July agenda, and it was pulled off because that person was not going to be present, and so it was deferred to August. And before the August meeting, the person called and said he didn't want to do it anyway. So Mr. Peterson said that he did not wish to retire from the board because his replacement had not been filled.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, hold on. Our attorney is going to speak to the matter, and then I'll come to you, Mr. Sneed.
Well, there's one, I wasn't here last month, so obviously I don't know about it. I was reading the minutes as we sat here just a few minutes ago, but maybe this might help a little bit. You know, when everything else is confused about what we can do, we simply go back to the Bible, or we go back to the bylaws, or we go back to the minutes, whatever we do. And that's what you have to do in a case like this, pretty clearly from listening to everybody here tonight. Mr. Peterson said he was going to resign from the board, and then he decided to rescind his request. So what does that mean? Does that mean, let me finish. Does that mean then that he can't change his mind? Is that what it really means? No, that's not what the law is. I heard you say a minute ago that you had actually looked at court opinions that said that what you had said was correct. Now, when you look at it, it's very well settled law in this state. Specifically, there's a case called State versus Bush, passed in 1918. That may be the case that you have. But what it says is that the resignation is not complete until it is accepted by the competent authority. For the airport board, the competent authority is this group right here. So until it came up to this board of mayor and aldermen, to decide whether or not they were going to accept the resignation or to terminate him or whatever, then he's effectively is still a member of that airport board. Whether he should have been there or whether he can be forced to resign, that all goes right down to the bylaws, whatever it says. But state law pretty clearly is that it's this board that determines his resignation, not the airport authority, not when he resigns to the airport authority.
I'll rebut that with what MTAS said, and I'll go back to reference that since the Supreme Court does say it's well settled that a resignation is not complete until accepted by the competent authority. So the question is, who is a competent authority? No previous airport member of that board has ever resigned to this board. They resigned to the airport board itself.
Well, maybe fundamentally the reason was we didn't follow the bylaws, we didn't follow the state law. There's the case that says once a resignation is unconditionally given and accepted, it cannot be withdrawn. But you have to be looking to see, is it an elected position or is it an appointed position? Because the law is different on the two. Now, in this particular one, it appears the resignation was never read, never discussed by this board, and therefore not being accepted, he was within his rights to withdraw it. Now, whether we like that or not, that's a fundamental issue. We go back to the way the board is run.
Well, what Ms. Holt said, I want to clarify. She was talking about August. The resignation was made in July. The minutes were read in, the resignations were made in July. The minutes were read in August. And it was after those minutes were read that the recant of the resignation was made. The minutes were read to the airport board. And this case law that we were reading had to do with elected official. We're dealing with a non-compensated volunteer board member. So that authority, what it says, the competent authority, they've always resigned to that board. That's where they're meeting. They don't come here and tell us.
Well, if we do things wrong all our lives, it doesn't make it right by doing it wrong all our lives and saying we've been doing it wrong for a long time, so it must be okay.
Right.
What I'm just really simply saying, as far as I know, and if I'm incorrect, somebody tell me, but as far as I know, never did this board say we accept his resignation or we terminate him, anything at all. Now, I don't have the minutes from then, so it may be something in the minutes, but I haven't heard anything where that was done. If I'm incorrect, then...
Well, I'm interested in the airport board. We just got through spending $3 million building a new terminal out there, and the current airport board has made leases for less money than they've evicted some people. And there's issues going on why we need new board members there.
Okay, we're talking about the appointment.
Credit cards being issued.
Okay, if you want to add that to the agenda next month, but we are talking about the subject that you put on the agenda, the appointment. Ms. Holt.
I'll just add that this board has never accepted a resignation since I've been around from a board member. And I think what the intent is, when a replacement or when a person is appointed, they're accepting the resignation because they're appointing someone in that person's position. And I think that's what we've always done, Mr. Nolan, just so you know.
Well, would it not be the case that you would look at precedents if something were to change, which this was a change? We've never crossed this bridge before. I'm really interested in getting new people on this board. And the man resigned, the minutes were read, and that's the precedents. And the case law that was cited by our city attorney had to do with an elected official and the sheriff, I see. And then the MTAS goes on to read your resignation, if it's given to a competent authority, and the state reference airport boards as an authority, and they are assuming they're competent. That's where it was made.
Well, I want to get it right just like you do. What's the name of the case that you're reading from?
I have Ms. Barti's handwriting right here if you want. It's written in legal garbage, but I can't.
Okay.
Miss,
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't know. We can pass it down, but, I mean, I can pass it over. Can y'all pass that down to them?
Okay. Mr. Hubbard, it's your turn.
you know, I have to be fair. And I'm afraid, and I'm gonna say it, nobody else will say it, because of the presidential nature that Mr. Sneed has against the board members. That's why we have to deal with all of these accusations and stuff. You continually said, I want to straighten it up, I want to get rid of the board and stuff. See, that's your personal, see.
I know what's going on
No,
with
but
that.
that's your
Let him
personal.
have his time.
That's
You
your
stop.
personal. You know,
I'll call on you.
we may have not seen what you supposed to have seen, okay? And it's been a battle for the past year of you disliking them, you don't like what they do, there's charges from you and stuff. But see, a lot of this stuff, understand me, has not really materialized with the rest of us. And my last point, we did not have any movement when it read about him wanting to resign. So we didn't take any action on that. So I just want to make that clear.
Mr. Sneed?
When have we ever formally voted to accept a resignation? We haven't. So why are we all of a sudden doing it? We're going to do that today, though. There's a precedence.
Let him have his time.
And I know a lot about what goes on at the airport because I go to the meetings and y'all don't. And I have flown out there at the airport. I don't think any of you have. Has anybody out there flown out there?
Yes.
I have. You took lessons there?
No, I'm not taking lessons. I've flown.
You're a passenger there.
Your question was flown.
Point of order, Mayor.
Sir,
That has nothing to do with
thank you.
discussing.
I'm closer to the airport, so are you going to deny me a little bit different insight than maybe the people who don't go to the meetings and don't hang around the airport and don't communicate
I'm
with
not saying
pilots?
you don't have insight, Alderman Sneed. I'm saying that has nothing to do with the agenda item tonight.
Mr. Trotter.
We seem to be discussing the resignation. It wasn't a resignation, he rescinded it. So why are we discussing the resignation that didn't happen? He rescinded the resignation, he rescinded it. So then there was a resignation, so why are we discussing it?
Well,
Other discussion?
I need to clear this up real quick because everybody else is going to be nice and stuff. Flying from there, flying into there has nothing to do with the business that transpires at the facility. So you're trying to pull us in just because we haven't flown out there, flown from there, that we don't know the business that's going on there. So stop trying to insult our intelligence. That's two different arguments, okay?
Mr.
Gentlemen.
Hubbard, I have been a member of that airport board, and you made the motion to put me there several years ago.
Okay. Moving right along, we have discussed this. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion? We've discussed it. Do you want to take action, or shall we move on?
What kind of action?
Well, I mean, it's been aired. I think
Okay.
that we need to get new people on there. It's almost a new board on there, but when they
I'll
get
make
credit
the motion
cards
that
that
we
we don't,
move on.
we approve their budget, and there's credit cards that were issued. I don't see anything in our budget that we approved that handles that. There's actually 2 credit cards.
I'm pretty sure they have the authority as a board.
You know, and it takes 9 weeks was the last to get some public records, which should have been obtained in 7 days. These are simple records. These were not complicated issues.
Okay. Alderman.
There's things going on.
Alderman Gregg.
And if you think it's okay for the airport board to suppress my receiving financial records,
Water,
and
water,
for 9
water.
weeks. And we approve their budget, but I can't, and they redact those financial records, but we approve their budget. If that's okay for that board to do,
Mr. Steen.
and I don't have a problem with that. And you-
Mr. Steen, do you want to make a motion? We had a motion to discuss. Would you
I'm
like-
just letting this board be apprised of,
Alderman Gregg, you had your hand up.
Mr. Nolan, thank you for explaining that. Even though if we've been doing it wrong, thank you for making it right for us.
Okay?
Well, thank you. I want you to call my wife and tell her. I actually have that page that you've written down. I have it written and ready a number of times before I came in.
Okay. We're ready to move on to 3.4. Discuss and possible take action on a request by Alderman Sneed to discuss ongoing legal matters. We need a motion to discuss this subject. Was this from last time or is this from last time?
Yeah, hold on.
Okay, hold on.
Mayor, I didn't make a motion, I did not add this to the agenda. What I added, which was not done, was to have an executive session. We all know we can't discuss legal matters in this meeting. What I wanted to happen was an executive session. That was not done. And y'all know that.
Because we can't even discuss this, man.
Just move on.
Alderman Sneed does not want to discuss 3.4.
It's not what I asked to be done.
Okay, we'll move on to 3.5. Discuss and possible take action on a plan to reduce the placement of junk on the public streets and the right-of-ways. Do we have a motion to discuss? And a second. Motion made by Alderman Arnold and a second by Alderman Trotter. Mr. Moore is coming to the mic. He has a small presentation to make.
Promise to make it as short as I possibly can.
We need to hear about this, though.
We have, you can go ahead to the next slide. We have had an uptick in trash recently. We've had a bit of a surge, that is true. According here, here in the last 2 months, it was, there has been an increase. That's absolutely true. And some have said it's absolutely out of hand. Well, that's perspective, but I'd say that was true for a short period there. And the city needs to take care of that. Well, that's complicated in this situation. A lot of the properties are not in our jurisdiction, that we do not serve those buildings, such as multi-residential and the housing authority. And a lot of the trash was in the housing authority, but there was also some not in the housing authority. I'm not throwing all blame on it. I'm not doing that. But that is the case. There was, and our housing authority is spread around the city a good bit. Anyway, I'll give you some example. Next slide, please. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking at. This is one day. It's one day of photos.
They're ugly, yeah.
And next slide. There was more. Next slide, please. There was a little more. And it was bad. It was bad. But the good news is the Housing Authority has addressed these. And all the ones you see on the Housing Authority are cleaned up. There's nothing there. Some of the inside the city, we're still going through our normal process that we do. This particular one in the bottom right, that was fun when I actually dug through the garbage myself looking for mail and tracked them down and went to their home and informed them that they're going to do it and clean it up or there's going to be action taken. So it's no longer there. They got in there and did the whole thing. Next slide, please. Next, let's talk about our current procedures and how they go. Now, when we're going around looking for the garbage and trying to hunt it down, typically we have our brush truck as our main frontline scout for this. And but we also do additional, everybody's trained to look for it, call it out, say, hey, we found something over here, let's go over and get a report on that. No, that's true. Next slide, please. So the first line is, the first notice is to, like I said, with the brush truck, That's the typical, but there's others. We can send a notice on the door, and they have 5 days cleanup. We come and check in 5 days, see if they've done. Next slide, please. 5 days later, we come and check it. If it's still there, then we issue a mailed letter informing them that's a violation. It's $50 a day from the very first day we document it.
Can I ask you a question right
Yeah.
there? Does your department do that, or does Code's department do
We
this?
do that. Our department does that.
So why
If
does
it-
Code's not do that?
Because it's on the, there's a difference between what's on the right of way, it's with their giving garbage, and opposed to property maintenance.
Okay, just so for understanding.
We work together a lot on some of those. Some of those there's a team effort going on, and that's true. So they give that, and then we do another inspection. Next slide. 3 days later, or excuse me, the second section, then they're giving them 5 days. So now we have a potential 10 to 12 days from the first time we start the notice at this point to come and have a look. We send out the next one. Next slide, please. And then 3 days after that, we do another check, totaling 12 days. We'll call it possibly 14 days from the beginning. And giving a final notice saying, hey, time's running out. And then next slide, please. And we're pretty gentle with how we're doing this. We're very courteous. And so now we're about 17 days in on our final notice. Now we're getting ready to go to court. And you're going to get fined $50 a day. We have all our evidence. And then, court might be several little while later. And it can get pretty expensive. Next slide, please. But fortunately, we don't get to that point. This year, this is all that we've done since the beginning, January 1st. We've had 270 first notices, which is a good bit, it is. Only 49 made it to a second notice, which is 5 days after the next one. And out of those 49, only 7 made it to a third. We have not been to court, not one time. And I even asked the staff, when was the last time we went to court? They remembered one about 5 years ago. So it's working, but there is some delays in there because one thing you got to remember when the brush truck is working with our limited staff, and we have one man that does the one crew. He's going around from the 1st to the 15th. He's on the north side of the city, and then from the 15th to the 30th, he's on the south side, and he does some repeats. So there's a chance that if it's not on one of the main thoroughfares that I or the supervising staff travel on, we might miss it. And there's a potential there for the guy to pass on one of these side roads and not get noticed because a neighbor hasn't reported or we haven't been through there. So it could push it out a little longer. But the residents usually are pretty good about it. That doesn't typically happen.
But you were talking about brush or rubbish?
Rubbish. So there's a possibility of that. And then in the brush, we typically about every 30 days is when we come back around, unless we're able during those periods to get back to you. We try to mix it up. It depends on how much we have going on. Next slide, please. But if that's not working, we really have 3 options. Option 1 is continue our current process and understand that there are times there's accelerated amounts of garbage. Number 2 is continue our current procedure, but penalize immediately. And from the beginning, no matter what, you're getting fined. And that's kind of heavy-handed on it, but it would get results as communication goes. And the third option is to start picking up on a regular basis. Next slide, please. Now, start penalizing immediately, as I said. No matter what, you're getting $50 fine every single day until you get it up. And that means taking the citizen or the resident, the property owner, to court, making a court appearance, paying court costs, and all the fines. It's just like getting a ticket, and there will be penalties for doing it at all. Next slide, please. And then the third option The biggest problem with that is it has to be funded. You have to figure out a way to make this happen. Now, there's two real possibilities that I could think of immediately. Well, three, but the other one being to absorb the cost, but that is, we have to find a way to fund this. Sanitation has its shortfalls already. Ms. Holt, I mean,
Yes.
what was the current?
We would have to find a way to fund it.
Have to. So, that's what we have to look at. Option one is to do across the board increase of sanitation fee. Problem there is if you're not putting garbage out, well, you feel like you're getting penalized. You're not utilizing that. So why am I doing that? Because of some people. You see the argument there, and I understand that. The other option would be to add a cost, since it is a utility. Sanitation is. It'd be an extra service that you got. And you can put it out anytime you want, but you're going to get an assessment placed on your utility bill to take care of that. Now, some people that might be great, some people not. That's not my concern on that, but we have to figure out a way to pay for it. And that includes the driver, the equipment, the fuel, the insurance, the disposal of the item, which is based on weight. We have no control of that, and it did just increase recently. So those three options are our best choices, and it's to agree what would we like to do to address that. Next slide. And now I think that covers
Questions?
most of it.
Mr. Harris?
So on the rubbish end of it, we are currently picking that up planned twice a year.
Yes, and we absorb that cost.
April and October.
Yes,
April
which
and October.
we're about to hit that time again.
And I'm not saying that everyone is, but I think a lot of people are under the assumption that if they set it out on the side of the street, the city's going to pick it up 12 months out of the year.
Yes. It appears.
And that could be from a lack of education, of knowing when we do it and how we do it and that type of thing. So probably through our social media, we might increase that some over what we pick up and when we pick it up. I'm not going to say that we don't need to increase it. I for one, am not in favor of increasing it across the board. That's not fair to all of the citizens within the city limits. I don't know how you would come about assessing a fee if they call for it to be picked up. That might be your most economical way to do it, but perhaps we could do a little bit, some more social media education on when we do pick these items up. And probably I guess people can take it to the dump at any time if they wish to.
Yes.
Anytime. Correct. And then you run into the problem there. Some people don't have a way of getting it there, that type of thing. So maybe we should look into some type of call system that the city could be called for a fee to come get these items. I mean, do you think it's just been an increase this year because more people are at home?
A lot of home projects. Yeah.
It's been
Cleaning out, or have we had this problem a lot in years past? Gina?
It's usually a problem. I do think it's worse this year because of the fact that so many people have been home.
32%.
32% increase?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
32%.
and in defense of the housing authority, not all the housing authority residents were there, was dumping. There were non-residents of the housing authority dumping on housing authority property also.
Sure.
There's no doubt of that. We have some on city-owned properties that we'll have to deal with. We put no dumping, and we'll probably have to take stronger actions later. But fortunately, we've been put up for surplus, so it's no longer ours. And lots have been bought, and houses are going up, so that's probably going to kill that.
That's why Mr. Moore was digging through the trash to find out some names.
Yeah, exactly.
Good job there. Any other questions while he's at the mic?
Well, this immediate fines of $50 a day is absolutely a no.
I understand that.
I don't think that's a fair way.
No. We can't do our citizens that way.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and I guess everyone who drives Fifth Avenue and Memorial, we're about to finish with the new paving that the state's put in. And I hope that after they are through and the lines are painted, that the city doesn't feel the need to start digging holes in the street
I'll direct that.
as it was soon after the last time it was paved. I don't know, about 10 or 12 years ago.
Well, we, on that, and this, Mr. Pierce can back me up on that, there's not a lot you can do with that. I actually talked to the state about asking them to go static, which means do not use a roller, or a vibrator, excuse me, on the equipment, but the type of mix they use, is not effective. They don't use the pneumatic rollers, the rubber tires anymore, so they say, well, nope, we got to do it. Well, if you got to do it, you got a bunch of cast iron, they don't like it.
Also, the rollers are rolling over the manholes and it breaks. Is that what you're saying?
No, the vibration produced by those,
Right, I understand.
yeah, and it snap a water line.
I see.
Number one way. And matter of fact, we actually had to dig in one today. But fortunately, that's TDOT's responsibility on that one, and we didn't have to eat the cost on that one.
Well, the thing different now than it was 12 years ago, we have the infrared devices that can merge the cut together seamlessly instead of cutting it out and pouring in a hole.
Mm-hmm.
You have that infrared thing that will melt it together. That's a little different.
Yes, they do have, it has its uses for sure.
We have one of those too, right? Thought we bought one.
I'm not aware of it.
Okay.
I've used one, but I'm not aware of it.
Since you
Any
brought
other questions?
this information to us, do you have a preferred method of trying to handle it? Or you have a
Well,
suggestion for this?
I
board
know
to
the way
consider?
that it's currently going does work.
The numbers proved it.
Yeah, they do. It does work. But if the city would like to address a way of doing it, because they just can't stand to look at it and that's a decision we need to make, then a bill on utility would be the best way. Individually. And it wouldn't be cheap. I actually run some first numbers on it. I said, I guess I went with a couch and gave an average weight, and it'd be about $80. How much it costs to individually grab a man off the crew, send him on over, pay all the services, get back over, and do that. Now, there's I'll explain and get deeper into that, but it's anywhere from $50 to $80.
So I can take my couch and put it on Ann's property?
No.
And she'll pay for it.
I have cameras, so you come right ahead.
But I also say on that we do like a call service saying, I put it out.
Yeah.
That's me.
Right.
Since everybody's not social media savage, did most of the utility bills mailed out in an envelope?
Yes.
Are most of the utility bills mailed out in an envelope? Could they maybe put a reminder of the pickup time? Would that be additional work?
No, we can actually add it onto the bill
Okay.
itself.
Appreciate that.
We'll probably be doing something for October anyway to remind people
Just remind.
about that. And
We're
really,
actually,
this-
we're running ads right now. We've
We
already
just
started.
want to, we wanted to bring that to the board's attention since so many of you had inquired about it and want people to know how it works, and it is successful. It's time-consuming, but there is the question of if you cannot do it on a utility bill, the person could be invoiced, I guess. Is that correct, Lisa? If we went that way. But I think the recommendation right now is to stay with what we're doing unless it gets to be a problem.
Yeah,
And then if it gets to be too much to handle, then we might have to look at
We could,
another
as he
option.
said, include some verbiage in the electric bill stating that we do this in April and October, and any other time you place it is being done illegally.
Right, right.
We do accept it at our office as well. You can come by the office and you can show, hey, I live here and I have a utility bill. We'll take every bit of garbage you
I can
bring in
bring
as
my
long as it's not
couch to your
construction material.
Not to my house.
Maybe once or twice a year, a sign, especially out there on these billboards,
Yeah,
you know.
we
Well,
can do.
we'll look at some other ways. We
How
advertise, but you
Clayton, do
can.
you handle that if it's brought to your office?
They come to the door, we meet them at the door because we're under our COVID requirements right now. But we check the utility, the address, the name, to verify that they are a paying customer. And then once it's that, we allow them just to drive around to the dumpster and put it in there, and we take care of it from there. And that actually has a good bit of usage. It varies from year to year, but it actually has a fair amount of usage, particularly during Christmas and Thanksgiving. So,
I think it's been an exceptional year that everybody has done their home improvements
yeah,
because they've been at home for COVID.
absolutely, and that's true on brush too. Brush was up
Yes.
62%.
I think it is. Thank you for your presentation. We'll move on to our consent doc, 4.1. Parks and Recreation Department is requesting approval to amend the bid for the 2021 4th of July fireworks display in the amount of $13,500 to Pyro Shows, Inc. of LaFollette, Tennessee, budgeted for $13,500
To amend or to award?
to award. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second by Alderman Gregg.
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
This is the second month I haven't been able to get my computer printout. Last month, there was a reason about something worked on that shows all of our budgets and our income and month to date. We don't have it again this month. I was wanting to look at where we are on revenue with all the businesses, but
It was
we're
emailed.
talking
It was
about,
emailed tonight.
but we're talking about approving $13,000 for fireworks. I haven't been able to see in the last 2 months where are our finances on considering, an expense for fireworks. Where are we?
Okay, of course, we're only 2 months into the fiscal year, so the statements that were emailed out tonight were through August. The $13,500 is budgeted every year, and so it's in the Parks and Rec budget. The reason we're doing it this time of year instead of, it's usually January or something like that, we're doing it now to get a savings because they have promised that well, Mr. Martin can explain it, but I think because so many people had backed out because of COVID and there weren't any large events, they're trying to go ahead and get people to sign up and commit, and so we're getting a deal by going ahead
Right.
and doing it now.
Well, I tried to get, we give thousands of dollars, like $25,000 or something like that to the chamber. The county a few years ago started giving $25,000 to the chamber. The Industrial Development Board pays like $27,000 to rent the room for a bi-monthly meeting.
Okay.
And the chamber, I tried to get to start paying for this. Excuse me?
We're not talking about the chamber. We're talking about whether we're approving this.
And there's other entities I think that have a lot of resources, who've requested new resources, have billboards behind Captain This and got new resources. We should get out of the sponsoring the fireworks in Nashville. Those are sponsored by corporations and banks and things. Are we on target with our revenue that we could be spending money for fireworks this year when I've been trying to get corporations or somebody else to take on this and advertise? Of course, when you see it in other people's websites, they make it look like they're the one who's sponsoring it, but they're not paying for it. But
If I'm not mistaken, in our last email that we received about our revenues are up, and I want to say off the top of my head, I think it's 6%. Is that correct?
I don't know.
It's up.
It was
But we were
five
actually
something.
ahead of where we were this time last year. So
Lower
we
than
really have not
6%.
seen an effect
Okay.
of the COVID.
all right.
It was up. Don't quote me on the 6%. It was up.
5.8 or something, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Other discussion?
Ready for the vote?
Okay. We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to our city manager, Ms. Gina Holt's report.
Okay, I'll keep it brief. This Friday at J. Travis Price Park, we have the How to Train Your Dragon, right?
Travis Price.
Travis Price. It's been moving around. So it starts when it gets dark. It's free, so bring your family. And then I don't know if you all saw, the Legacy Golf Course received some more recognition, which is pretty good. It's ranked number 2 in public courses for the state of Tennessee. So that it was a very good article in East Southern Golf, and they have really been doing so very, very well. They've had a lot of big tournaments out there. Course is in good condition, so things are going well out there. We received word this week that we did not get the CDBG that we had applied for, $630,000, which was going to help us with our wastewater plant improvements, so we did not get it, so that's very disappointing. Several people have asked, I mean, you all have, as well as the public, about the property at 1320 and 1324 South Main. It's the old Carter Lumber Company. So everybody knows it's an eyesore, it looks awful, and they want to know when the debris is going to be removed. And the property owner was sent a letter with a 30-day deadline to complete the demolition and clean the property. So in 30 days, if he has not made any progress, we will go in and we will do the work and we will invoice the owner for the full cost. And then if he does not pay, we will place a lien on the property. So this is a tedious, time-consuming process by the time you work through it all, but everybody wants us to go in like tomorrow and do this, but we can't. So ultimately, the property is going to be cleaned up, and so the clock is now ticking, which is the way we've handled several properties like the Royal Inn and the Second Amendment. So this too will pass. And then finally, the census response rate for Springfield is now 60.5%. So we got up to the 60s, I'm glad to see, compared to 69.7% for the county and 65.1% for the state. So we're slowly knocking it in the right direction. And that is all I have.
Meeting's adjourned.